Hi everyone. Some of you know me, some of you don't. To those that don't know me, my name's Bob Allen. I'm an osteopath. Sollus Healthcare. This is mirrored, you see, so I have to do it the other way around. Sollus Healthcare is my business. I'm an osteopath. I'm a strength and flexibility coach, and I do a Targo training, which is strength and flexibility for slightly older generation. And one of the things I don't do a lot of, but could probably do a lot more now, is I do workstation assessments. So I do ergonomics, that kind of thing. So what this is about today is about how you can work a little bit smarter and cause yourself a few less problems if you work from home. Because it's not a very exciting topic. Rather than looking at my face the whole time, I've prepared a little presentation for you. So if I share that, I'll kind of walk you through that. And if you've got any questions along the way, feel free to stop me and ask. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so not sure why, but it's doing strange things. Okay, so I've called this "Are you sitting comfortably?" because ideally, if you're working from home, then that is exactly what you want to be doing. Although ergonomics is not strictly part of osteopathy, as an osteopath, we work a lot with people that spend a lot of time sat at a desk or working out in the real world. If you spend a lot of time sat at your desk, then this is for you. So, first thing I thought I'd talk about, and not a lot of people know this, is that if you're an employer, you have a duty of care to your employees. So, and I wish you'd stop doing that. I don't know why it's doing that. Technology, stop it. It was doing this before, and I don't know why. Right, that, then that, yes, sorry. Yes, if you're an employer, you have a duty of care to your employees. Not strictly relevant for the audience we've got, because most of us in BuzzCom are self-employed. It's doing it again, I'm not sure why. Right, most of us are self-employed, so we basically have to do our own display screen equipment assessment. If you're an employer, then you have a duty of care to your employees, which means that you have to make sure that their working environment is safe to work in. Now, what that means is workstation assessments, they come along, they look at how you sit at your desk, etc., and they have to make sure that you are not likely to injure yourself while you're doing that. The interesting thing is that if your employer makes you work from home, which is one of the things that's happening at the moment, then they also have a duty of care. So in theory, if you are an employer with employees that now have to work from home, you have to make sure that their work environment is set up so that such that they are not likely to injure themselves. And as I said, that's true whether in the workplace or at home. Now, it's very unlikely that an employee that has to work from home is going to come back to you and say that my sore neck, my dodgy shoulder is as a result of the work that you've made me do. And it would be a bit of a grey area in terms of arguing that was the case. But if you're an employer, it's worth knowing. If you're an employee, it's also worth knowing that your employer has a duty of care to you. If you haven't got a suitable work environment, then you can go back to them and say, I need a shiny new desk, I need a new monitor, etc. How you get on with that, I don't know. It's not my area of expertise. Might be worth having a word with a human resources person, because they can walk you through whether you had some kind of claim or not. But it's just something that I thought I'd throw in there, because not a lot of people realise that's the case. So moving on to the next slide, a little bit about how we should sit at our desks. And yes, Trudy, I saw that, exactly right. Whenever I show this slide, everybody kind of shuffles around a bit, moves around a bit and goes, okay, this is how I should be sitting. Got it? Yeah. Stephen, no, not like that. Yeah, so in an ideal world, this is how we should sit at our desks. Now, realistically, I know that doesn't happen very often. It happens very rarely, in fact. So that is the ideal option. What I'll show you next is scenarios that are more likely to happen when we're working from home. I've employed my glamorous assistant over there to help me out and demonstrate. The picture on the left is how you shouldn't be sitting if you can help it. The picture on the right is how you should be sitting. Now, first thing you probably notice is the picture on the left, young Fred, smacking wrists there, definitely, because if you look at the chair that he's sitting on, it's just a bog standard kitchen chair. It's not adjustable in any way at all, and unfortunately, it's one of the things. I've just moved into a new flat. It's one of the things that was on my list of things to do, was to buy a sensible chair. As you can see, lockdown, it didn't happen, so I'm stuck with that thing. Now, as you can see, he's kind of leaning back, head sort of tilted forwards, trying to look at where the monitor is. His right arm isn't quite in the right position, etc., etc.
How do you know he's a he?
Sorry, Stephen?
How do you know he's a he?
Because he's called Fred.
Oh, all right. Then.
Obviously.
Okay.
Bob, Kevin's got his hand up. I don't know whether he wants to go to the toilet or whether he's got a question. Kevin.
No, I have a genuine question on this, Bob. Something you might have asked me. The thing about the top of the screen being at eye level.
Yeah.
I'm pointing now just in case anybody didn't know what eyes were.
Yeah. Thank you, Kevin.
How do you go? I very nearly just said, what do you do if you've got a really big one like me then? And I just realised what I was going to let myself in for if I did. Sorry.
Yeah, don't do that, Kevin.
I obviously got quite a big screen because video editing. So the top, if I was looking at eye level at the top of the screen, I'd be up there. So what happens in those cases? I never understood that.
Right. Well, the idea of eye level with the top of the monitor is so that people don't spend all their time looking down at the keyboard. Because like if you're a one-finger typist like most of us, that's what you tend to do. So the idea is to keep yourself pretty much upright. If you've got a massive monitor, then you ain't going to be looking at the top of the screen. But
okay.
But do you use the whole of the frame, the whole of the monitor, the whole of the time?
Well, no, that's the difference, isn't it? Because if if you're just typing, obviously you're looking straight in front of you most of the time anyway, aren't you?
If you touch type, yes.
But I could be looking at different parts of the screen all the time. So I asked once at the university, and they kind of told me to shut up and go away, if I'm being honest.
I can totally get that.
Right, okay. So, I mean, the thing about it is that if you use the center of the screen most of the time, I would say that's where you kind of want it. If you've got a massive screen and you're using the whole screen the whole time, then having the top of the monitor level with your eye line isn't going to help. Ideally, you want the monitor at a comfortable height. And later on, we'll talk about taking regular breaks away from
okay.
But that's kind of the way around it. At the moment we're talking about the ideal setup.
Yeah.
What I'll talk about later is to avoid getting neck muscle ache, etc., etc. This is something else that you can do. So yeah, it's a good question.
Okay.
One of the things that you'll notice is that everything is geared towards Mr. and Mrs. Average. So it's, if you're average height, you spend excellent amount of time at a computer. These are the things that you need to do. One of the joys of being an osteopath is that everybody is different. When I was talking earlier on about the DSE required display screen equipment regulations, they are geared to the average person. Now you can go onto the net and you can download checklists of all the things that you should be doing with your workstation setup. The downside of that, again, that's for Mr. and Mrs. Average. The downside of that, of course, is that nobody is Mr. and Mrs. Average, or very few people are.
Yeah.
What I tend to do, what I'll offer to people after this, is get somebody to take a picture of you working at your workstation, and then we'll go from there. Because like I said, everybody's got a different setup. There's things you can do to make it better, but it depends on what you're doing and when you're doing it. So for you, like I said, it'll be more important to take regular breaks from the screen than it will be to have it set up with the monitor in a certain position.
Okay. Whereas with Paul Green, it'd just be great if you could find a picture of him working.
Well, yeah, there is that. No, I know it'd be a struggle, but I do my best. Right, so moving back to working at your desk, as we were saying. So If you had an average size monitor, not a big one like Kevin, then in the picture on the left, you can see that it's slightly lower than it needs to be. Oh, right, going back to the chair, which is what we were talking about earlier on.
Sorry, Bob.
Sorry, what? Sorry
for interrupting. I interrupted you to say sorry. I was interrupted.
Okay.
You carry on now and leave me alone.
I was trying to leave you alone before, Kevin. One of the keys, we were talking about the chair, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the chair. The thing about the chair is, looking at a picture on the right of how you should sit, you can see that the chair is pulled right into the desk so that there's not a lot of space between Fred and the desk. The reason for that is because you don't, well, first thing, you don't have to spend hundreds or thousands of pounds on a whizzy flash ergonomic chair. You can get an office chair. I used to have a second-hand chair bought 10 years ago, and it only broke a couple of weeks ago because I was leaning backwards on it and then it just snapped. But you don't have to spend hundreds or thousands of pounds on the chair. You can get a decent office chair, and that will be perfectly adequate. All it needs is to be height adjustable, and it needs to have a back which has got a little bit of give in it. As long as it's got that, it will be fine. Key thing to note if you're going to go out and buy a chair, buy an office chair, is does it have arms on? Most situations you do not need arms on a chair. The thing about chairs with arms on is they were designed back in the olden days when we had sort of really narrow desks which were just wide enough for a keyboard and then a monitor on top of them. Most people have got proper desks now, so you don't need arms on it. If you're going to buy an office chair, check the arms, make sure that let's see whether they can come off or not. If it's a cheap chair, you'll find that the arms are actually part of the structure of the chair, which means if you try and take them off, the chair falls apart. I know, I have done this before. Back in my early days as an ergonomics assessor, I was adjusting a chair, tried to take the arms off, the chair fell apart, put the arms back on, and then advised on doing something slightly different. So just something to be aware of. The other thing as long as the chair is height adjustable and it's got a little bit of give in the back, the other thing to note is that when you sit down in the chair, push your bum to the back of the chair. What people tend to do is when they're sitting on a chair, they tend to sit, sort of perch halfway along, like that, Kevin. They tend to perch halfway along. The downside of that is you tend to start off in a good upright position, and then during the day you tend to slump a little bit. If every time you go and sit in the chair, you sit with your bum to the back of the chair, you've automatically got that feedback from the back of the chair, and it tends to keep you more upright. I think that's about, oh yeah, the other thing as well is you'll notice the incredibly expensive height adjuster on the monitor, which is basically a bunch of thick books. You can go out and buy a riser for the monitor, which allows you to do all of these sort of whizzy things with it. In reality, as long as it's the right height, it don't really matter how you do it. One of the things that you can't see is the footrest. If you're of average height and you've got a decent height adjustable office chair, you don't need a footrest. If you're slightly shorter than average, a footrest is highly advisable. Otherwise, people tend to sit in all kinds of strange positions. They either tuck their feet under the chair, or they, particularly with girls, I don't know why, is they'll put one foot on the chair and then they'll sit in all kinds of weird and strange positions. So don't do that. Shannon, you're grinning. Sound familiar?
Yeah, that's what I do, to be fair.
That's right. Yeah, don't do that. Right, so that's kind of working at your desk. Any questions?
No, crack on.
Moving swiftly on then. Working on the sofa, as you can see. Picture on the left, how you shouldn't sit. Picture on the right, how you should. Picture on the left, there's Fred looking down at the screen. Nice C-shaped curve in his back, head tipping forward, etc., etc. Note strategic positioning of the remote control. That's one of those important things. Have all the important stuff within easy reach. Picture on the right, Fred sitting more upright, looking head not too much of an angle, looking at the screen. He's got a cushion behind him to try and keep him up, rather than, particularly when you're on the sofa, you tend to slump. Can't help it. Most sofas are designed to be comfortable rather than functional. So if you can't get the back support, cushion behind you, that always does the trick. The other thing, to raise the height of the monitor a little bit, we've got a nice cushion underneath the laptop, to raise the height of that. So again, you're not craning your neck to look down at it. You're trying to trying to maintain a more upright posture, or as upright as you can. So that, working on the sofa. Next one, working in bed. I'm sure nobody in the audience actually tries to use a laptop while in bed, do they, Shannon? So if you do, don't do the picture on the right. As you can see, Fred's neck, right, almost at right angles to his body, particularly uncomfortable. They really don't want to do that. If you have to work in bed, get up, you lazy git. No, if you have to work in bed, again, it's all about having the support behind you to try and keep you as upright as you can, and then raise the height of the laptop as well, so it's in a much better position for you.
Is anybody worried the next slide's working in the toilet?
Only you, Paul. Only you. Have you ever tried sitting a skeleton on a toilet? Yeah, just don't do it, mate. Right. And the other one is the another familiar scenario, working at the kitchen table. As you can see, picture on the left. Don't do that. Slump forward, weight going through the elbows, looking down to see the screen. Yeah, generally not a good idea. Because again, all of these things put more strain on the joints, can cause more problems in the future. Picture on the right, ideally, again, you'll notice that the chair is brought right under the table so that you can rest your arms on the table. Picture on the left, you can see that he's actually leaning forward, putting a lot of weight through the arms, which is going to put more strain through the shoulder joint. And also head leaning forward, etc., etc. So picture on the right, much better, more upright. As you can see, laptop on a box to raise the height of the monitor so it's within easy eye line. The eagle-eyed amongst you, Kevin, will notice that it's actually on a Babylon 5 box set. Yeah, see?
What's that? What's the Babylon 5?
Don't worry about it, Stephen.
I know people who would have said that's the best use for a Babylon 5 box set.
Yeah,
I've unfriended them since. But...
Yeah. What he would also have is he would have a keyboard in front of him, but unfortunately I didn't have a spare keyboard, so he hasn't. But that's where it would be. When you're using a laptop at a kitchen table, ideally you want a separate keypad, because one of the things about using a laptop generally is that you tend to have to kind of internally rotate the shoulders when you're using it. Again, that's putting more strain through the shoulder joint. You tend to be looking down, so that's putting more strain through the neck joints, etc., etc. So ideally, if you're using a laptop, because you definitely wouldn't want to use it, if you've raised it, you don't want to be doing that. So ideally, raise the height of the laptop so the monitor is in a better position, and then you've got a separate keyboard, because ergonomically it's a much better thing to do. So
my belly wouldn't let me get near that table.
Restful. What you could do is you could cut a little C shape in it for you, mate.
I have a serious question, Bob.
Oh no, here we go.
No, seriously, because I am working at the kitchen table at the minute, it's the only space I've got. Christina's taken the living room and I'm too scared to try and move her. So,
very wise.
But it's like, I haven't got that much space and I can't set that up. Is this one of those things where you get as near as possible, or is it?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is these are kind of like ideal situations. Realistically, what I'd recommend to people, and like I said, we'll come on to that, and I think it's on the next slide. It's all about actually taking regular breaks from your desk. I mean, the thing about it is you can have the most expensive ergonomic setup in the world, and if you really wanted to, you could spend an awful lot of money on ergonomic gear. But at the end of the day, if you don't take regular breaks away from your desk, you're going to ache. Simple as that. I mean, the human body is designed to move. It does not like it being put in position, however ideal the position, it does not like being put in positions for any length of time. So it doesn't matter what setup you've got. So if you're in a position where you've got a less than ideal setup, take regular breaks, take more breaks away from that setup. Simple as that, really. So yeah, like I said, you can have the ideal setup and spend truckloads of money on all the really expensive stuff. If you stay there all day, every day, you're going to ache. So yeah, take breaks, my friend. Take breaks.
It just occurs to me that people watching on Facebook Live, if they have to come in halfway through this and just see skeletons on the screen, probably think they're tuned into some weird fetish channel.
No, that's just occurred to you, Paul. I don't think it occurs to anyone else, mate. moving swiftly on. Right, so little list of things to do to avoid musculoskeletal problems, it says there. Right, the thing about the stuff that I've just shown you, a lot of that is setups for people that are of average height. Now, if you're very tall, you probably want a height adjustable desk, because to get in the best position, you know, elbows at 90, body upright, that sort of thing. If you use your standard office desk, you're probably going to end up being too low. You're not going to be able to get in a great position. So a height adjustable desk can mean either going out and buying one or putting your desk up on books like I did with the monitor, just so you get it at the right height. If you're shorter than average, a footrest is ideal. Don't curl your legs up under the desk or anything like that, under the chair or anything like that, because yeah, again, it's not a great position and it's likely to cause problems in the longer term. Avoid crossing your legs while sitting, because we are made to be vaguely symmetrical. As soon as you cross your legs, as soon as you put one foot up on a chair, the other just sitting on the leg, that sort of thing, you're starting to put more tension through joints, more tension through muscles, and it can start to cause some problems. The key thing about all of this stuff is that 80% of the population will be able to abuse it. They like to sit in as awkward a position as they like and not have any issues at all. I'm kind of talking about the other 20% who do start to get some aches and pains from working at the desk. The other one, yeah, it's if you spend a lot of time looking at a screen, it can cause eye strain. Eye strain can cause increased tension around the jaw. Increased tension around the jaw can cause increased tension in the neck and the shoulders, etc., because everything's connected. That can cause headaches. Great, because you then come and see me and I fix it and then make money out of it. But ideally, prevention is better than cure. So things that you can do to help yourself, do those. So there's this 20-20-20 rule, which says that for every 20 minutes, look at something 20 feet away for at least 20 seconds. Realistically, nobody's going to do that.
With my belly, the screen is 20 feet away.
Lots of people laugh, but nobody agree. I'd agree with that, Paul. Yes, you need to be more careful. Right, so you spend a lot of time on the phone, and I know that it used to be a bit of a problem in the old days where we used to have the big phones. I've seen people cradling their mobile in the neck while they're getting on with doing whatever it is they're doing. Downside of that, of course, putting lots of strain through the neck muscles, neck joints, etc., and that can cause problems. So in these days of Bluetooth phones and headsets and those sorts of things, not necessary. The other thing, if you're working at a desk, you've got things that you need all the time. Have them in a position that's convenient. I had a client who I did a workstation assessment at home for. They were getting pain mid-back, neck and shoulder. So, you know, didn't know why. I went in, had a look, and it turns out that basically they've got a printer over there. They were turning to get paper out of the printer fairly frequently. They were leaning across, and that was just putting more strain through the neck and shoulder joints, and that was the cause of the pain. We got them to move those things around, problem solved. So, yeah, I mentioned earlier on things about ergonomic equipment. The thing about ergonomic equipment is as soon as you put ergonomic on the front of anything, it tends to get very, very expensive. Mainly because most ergonomic equipment is bought by corporates. Corporates tend to have lots of money. They also have the view that if it's cheap, it can't be any good. So they pay accordingly. There is some good stuff out there. You can get ergonomic keyboards, you can get a trackball, which is what I use, you can get a vertical mouse, all those sorts of things, which are great if you have to spend a lot of time at a desk, and taking lots of regular breaks is not an option.
Fred's put on some weight, hasn't he?
Sorry?
Fred's put on some weight in this one.
He has put on some weight, yes. That bit, I could see, as soon as that slide came on, I could see Kevin's eyes light up thinking, how do I get one of those? That would be perfect. I have no idea, Kevin. Let's just picture off the internet, mate. Right, and now for the final bit. Basically, take regular breaks away from your desk. As I was saying before, doesn't matter how expensive all the kit is, doesn't matter how perfectly set up your desk is, if you don't take regular breaks, you're going to get aches and pains. Fact of life. Ideally, every 30 to 45 minutes, take a break, take a 5-minute break, get up, move around, do some stretches, that sort of thing. realistically, I said 45 to 60 minutes because that's more realistic. Most people won't take those regular breaks, but you know, every 30 minutes or so. So yeah, set up a reminder on your mobile, set up a reminder on your PC, whatever you do, take a break. Yeah, eat your lunch away from your desk, go for a walk, get out and get some fresh air in our 20-minute exercise break per day. Take that as your lunchtime, go out and do something else. Do some stretches during that break as well. I've included a couple of examples here. These may be advanced for some. If you think they're a bit tricky, give me a shout. I'll send you some that may well be a little bit easier for you.
There's no way what that woman in the middle's doing is any good for anybody.
It's pretty good for me.
Yeah, moving swiftly on. I think that's it, actually. Yeah, that'll do. Any questions?
Right. Okay. Any questions, anybody?
I'm silent.
I often get like really stiff shoulders, and if I ever have a massage, I hate that bit when the people go clunk over, particularly my right shoulder. And I'm not sure why it's particularly my right shoulder, apart from the fact that this is my mouse hand.
Right. I suppose the question there would be, where's the mouse?
So I've got a slight extension over to the right. My mouse mat is kind of, I don't know, 15 centimetres in front of me and more in line with my right elbow.
Okay, I'll tell you what. We'll probably, yeah. I'm not going to diagnose people here and now. But if you want to take a picture and get somebody and email me the position that you're working in, it may well be related to how you work. Because, like I said, there's ideal setups for a workstation, but it all depends on how you work and what you do. Because I'm guessing you do lots of social media stuff or lots of typing.
Not so much typing, it's mostly mouse work for me because I'm a designer, so I'm drawing things on screen. I'm creating things with my mouse.
Sorry, when you say drawing on screen, do you actually mean on what screen? What screen? Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah. Right. You use the mouse to do your designs, that sort of thing. Okay. Have you thought about using a stylus?
Nope.
Use a Mac?
She has now.
I use a Mac, yeah.
Okay. Because you can get tablets which you can do drawing it on rather than using a mouse to do it.
And I suppose, would that be more in front of me, like here, rather than here?
I'll tell you what. Let's have a chat afterwards, and I've got some ideas about what you can actually do to make that easier. But yeah, we'll have a chat.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Anybody else? Let's see if anybody's waving frantically. No. No, Sarah's here. Liz has had enough. She's gone, or she's turned into Fred. Something's gone on there. So, are there any
break?
What, Kevin?
She's taking a break.
This is on a phone call.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Shocking. Right, unless there's anything else for Bob. Thanks ever so much, Bob.
Okay.
Everybody seems to be sitting up much more straight than when they joined the. So you've obviously done
as soon as people find out what I do, that tends to happen a lot. And what I have got is I've got a list of a kind of 10 things which go into a little bit more detail about what I've covered today. I mean, what I can do is I can send that, make that available for you guys if you think that'd be useful.
Yeah, yes, please.
Yeah, okay, we'll do that. And Trudy, I'll give you a shout post this, and then we'll have a little chat.
Okay, thank you.
You're getting special treatment now, Trudy.
No.
I think it's probably too late for a lot of us, Paul.
Yeah, Trudy's still got some hope, hasn't she?
Yeah.
So the good news is that it's never too late, even for old people like you, Kevin. Paul.
Seriously, Bob, come on, seriously.
And yet Stephen Church got away with that. How did that happen?
Yeah, no, I can vouch for that. Bob is absolutely right. I've been plugging what he's done for me for months, and I genuinely thought I couldn't contemplate doing a marathon because I just pull muscles. Well, as the training started, I did pull muscles one by one, but Bob just gave me a whole regime of exercises, strengthening exercises, as much as anything, as well as stretching. And, you know, even at the age of very nearly 65, you can do all kinds of things you didn't realize you could do. If you listen to Bob Allen. How am I doing, Bob?
Very well, Stephen.
You should stick them. You should stick them on a list, Stephen, and put them on your wall behind you. Oh, look, you have. Right, Janet was at a hand up, she was trying to poke Nicola through the.
I'd just like to say yes, the same as Stephen. I mean, Bob's kept me on the straight and narrow, so to speak, and also keeps putting Chris back together periodically. So, you know, he's a fine fella. So.
It's a shame. What do I have to do to get you off the straight and narrow, Janet?
Well,
Stephen, we'll have a word afterwards, Stephen. I'll tell you all the secrets, mate.
That's tomorrow's webinar.